They would send in a governor for 4 or 5 years who would squeeze and torture and kill and act like a buffoon. They would even have the Roman heralds who would cry out the news of the government, badmouth the governor in the name of the Caesar. And then they would send the Savior later. And the public would put up with even more tyranny just because they were well-spoken and would do a few public stunts to be nice to the public or let a few people out of prison. Now, I didn't give you the full equation there. This is in Roman handbooks. This is in quite a few books. I mean, I mentioned it a lot. Battle for Gaul mentioned some of that, but there's quite a few other books written on statecraft by Caesars and historians and others explaining how they would do this. But let's say they had rebellion in a province, and they didn't have somebody who was hardcore enough. They would then send someone even more vicious to say, crucify a third of the population. You know, they would go into an area and round up tens of thousands of people over a year, crucifying them, hanging them dead out of trees all over the area. They would take incredibly expensive salt and ship it in and dump it into the fields so that they couldn't grow. And then they would send, again, after that person had just crushed and slaughtered everybody, the Savior. These are handbooks, ladies and gentlemen. There are slave handbooks written in Rome, republished by the British and the French for the sugarcane colonies in the Caribbean, on how to set the women up over the men, the house women, with the men out in the barn, and how to control that, how to raise the children up. It's a science. It was a science then. It's a science now. And they do everything they can to tell you government's inept and doesn't know what it's doing, and they couldn't tie their shoelaces. You know how complex a factory is, just an average factory that, say, makes glass? All the huge systems are a steel mill. How about NASA? How about the CIA? How about operations they carry out? Now, down at the low level, they do have slimy, red tape bureaucracy, but that's only to capture you, not them. All right, I'm digressing, and I want to go to your calls. So here comes Obama, shiny face, smiling, well-spoken, all the right mannerisms and gestures. And the media does everything they can to build him up, and, oh, Grandma gets sick right on time, and Grandma dies. Tell you, that stinks, folks. It's like Clinton's mother was shooting her mouth off, bye-bye, Mommy, right when he got elected. But she died the day before he got elected. But whatever. The point is, here comes the Savior, and they tell the world, he loves you, Europe. He doesn't turn your back on you. He doesn't turn your back on you, Arabs. Yeah, America wants to be friendly, but we are going to stand up to Iran, and we are going to go ahead and go into Pakistan, and we are going to encircle Russia. And Joe Biden and others say he's going to do some really unpopular stuff for the left. We're going to cut teacher pay, and we're going to increase the defense spending. Why, $1 trillion defense budget, $400 billion bigger than the last one? That's not big enough. And we're going to do all these things, and open borders, and national ID cards, and all of it. Worker visas for all. And they're going to have the House, the Senate, and the executive. They're going to have the legislative and the executive. And they're going to have a media firmly behind him, and they'll probably stage a terror attack very soon after he's elected, within the first year, so he can grandstand and bomb some third world country, and conservatives will go, I didn't like him before, but I like him now. Because the good old boys will be getting Homeland Security jobs as they convert the economy over to that. Oh, it's going to be government make work, but it's not going to be building dams and bridges and rest stops and planting orchards. No, it's going to be, they say it's going to be domestic spies. By the way, Obama didn't come up with that. That was set up by George Bush, started by Bill Clinton, but actually executed. I'll never forget the Philadelphia Daily News and other papers describing freshmen, sophomores, juniors, and seniors in high schools across the country training in warrant service checkpoints, writing dossiers on their parents, and at the shooting range shooting M16s with the Army, the FBI, and the BATF. They're already all around you. Just like the 26,000 preachers hired to tell their flocks to accept martial law and turn their guns in. This is a huge military operation by the foreign banks, looting everything. So they're talking about change. Yes. We've had one leg hacked off. They're going to hack another leg off and let us bleed out. They're going to take the tourniquets off our legs. Folks, you're going to see change like you never saw. And I remember going on air when George Bush was elected and saying, get ready, folks. Get ready. You're going to see tyranny. You're going to see stage terror. You're going to see a new world order because it's their job. Republicans and conservatives were at the point of rebellion over Bill Clinton. Here comes George Bush to pacify him. Then the liberals are at the point of rebellion over George Bush. The whole country woke up to him, not just liberals. Here comes the liberal savior. And, of course, we've seen massive election fraud, the Supreme Court appointing Bush, and then John Kerry taking the dive, and people going to prison for stealing the election in 2004. Oh, but now Barack Obama will be elected in a landslide, proving the machines are safe and work. Meanwhile, stealing all the local elections from people the new order doesn't like, stealing governorships, stealing legislative seats at the states, unifying, cementing, quieting the debate about the voting machines, where we've gone from 90+% not believing there's fraud to over 90% in major polls believing there is systemic top-down election fraud. That'll kind of salve that. And I've even heard the pundits say, oh, he'll bring people back into trusting government, back into working together as a country. But we're not working together as a country. We're going under their control. When people wake up in 4 to 8 years, they'll give us another sniveling fake Republican with lots of conservative talk, who will then triple the size of the government again, like George Bush did, and triple the size of the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. Triple the size of the Department of Education. Sign on to UNESCO and the UN treaties. All right, I've ranted enough. I want to go to your calls.